It's Colleen Schmidt from Divination Counseling Service. Today I want to present the new moon of September 17th, 2020. We're going to look at first on the Janus program where it's a little bit easier to see, and then we'll add the asteroids in for the second half. So before I go to the charts, I just want to say thank you to all my subscribers, whether you're subscribing to the YouTube channel, the website, or to my newsletter. Thanks. Thanks for being there, and thanks for allowing me into your life and into your homes. So with that said, if you like, share, comment, let other people know that this kind of work is out there. I'd really appreciate it. So we're going to go look at the charts. So we're going to look at the Janus chart first, as I said, and we're going to look at what I refer to as the Grand Cross. So we can see this Grand Cross here. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is the sun and the moon and how it aspects Neptune. So these are the angles of the chart done up in red. I love that. Making it easy for us to read. Remember, we're going to go 10 degrees on either side. Now, as we look at this chart, I want to note this because I actually did this tape before. This is my second time through. And please note that 2626 ascendant on here, when we get to solar fire, it's not going to quite be the same. That is normal when you're working with software, that they would be slightly off. I've seen it before. The only thing I can say is it does justify using that 10 degrees on either side. That does help that. So as we're looking at the sun and the moon and we're looking at Neptune, realize that we're looking at things like, I don't know where I am. I don't know who I am. I feel overwhelmed. I feel lonely. I feel desolate. So this is reality here, okay? And Neptune is also spirituality, compassion, but it's also deception, and self-deception could be a big factor considering that we're talking about a moon and a sun that are resting in the 12th house, and they're resting in the 12th house in both charts. Right on the ascendant, which means that we're okay with being out there in the world, but we're probably not as expressive. We're probably keeping things to ourselves more. And there's a reason for that, and I'll get to that later when I get to the asteroids. But for now, let's go with the sensitivity that is encompassed by this Neptune. Neptune's also the illness and people who are ill. And sometimes it doesn't have to be the COVID illness, although I'm sure it's a big factor for a lot of people. It's also just being ill in general or having contact or connection with people who are ill. Think about, we're in a pandemic, and if somebody already had health issues to start with, this would only compound their situation. So that is also a factor here, okay? It is a retrograde Neptune, but I really feel that Neptune can be enhanced by the retro because there's so much unknown that it already forces you to a more, how do I put, a more pondering, retrospective kind of way of thinking. It is more spiritual. It is one of the most spiritual. And that spirituality, that sensitivity, because that's what it really is. It's a sensitivity. It's awareness that there's more out there than just us. It gives us that little layer of spirituality, just that glimpse of there's something out there greater than you are. And that calling, if you will, or that drive, that can play a big factor, but it also makes us all very, very sensitive. And when you're sensitive, we are easily overwhelmed. And that is how a lot of people are going to be feeling if you haven't started already. So yes, we are days ahead of this, but I like to watch things cycle in, which means that as of this weekend already, I was already feeling some of this. I already had my overwhelmed, stressed out, I got to do something about it. I'm so stressed out, One of the things that they recommend, or it's recommended by my teacher, by the way, is Martha Lang Westcott. She has her own website, marthalangwestcott.com. And I'm actually going to use some of her concepts to embellish on what we're talking about right here, especially with the Neptune she's a great research person, and she does a lot of work in medical astrology. I'm not going to look at it from a medical perspective, though we could, because Neptune is definitely illnesses, but not always do we know what they are. But Neptune is definitely can relate to that. What I would like to look at is some of the notes that I wrote down regarding the sun and the moon, and even how much they connect with one another. Again, it's the things that we're looking for are that something's not right, that we're having these innate feelings that something just isn't right, especially in our connections and along with our associations. It just isn't right. Something just doesn't feel right. Okay? So we have that going on. Okay? It just doesn't feel right. It also talks about how there could be sense of hopelessness. Yes. I can already relate to that. And again, it doesn't have to be what's going on in the world, although it could be, but it could be what's going on in your personal life. It talks about feeling victimized, dependencies, all kinds of things are coming into play here. Besides the yearning for spirituality, which I already talked about. It talks about how we're concerned because our future is not clear. Oh, that's really true on every level, from the world politically to the pandemic and personally. We really don't know what the future holds. And that too is a source of being overwhelmed. You also could be dealing with unrealistic or deceptive people. It's the lies we tell ourselves too, because believe it or not, self-deception, as I said before, huge, especially considering Moon and Sun are in the 12th house, okay? I do believe that's a huge factor. I believe that one of the things that is going on in steroid is that concept of self-delusion. Hopefully, and I will look at asteroids, which sort of indicate this, that people will wake up, or at least look at it, okay? There is a sense of wanting to give up. Hypersensitivity, though, because of the overwhelming of the hypersensitivity, the concepts of just giving up, they coincide, okay? Just finding that other people or life itself is unreliable, irresponsible, and maybe sometimes even deceptive. That other people, particularly that you're dealing with, are feeling that way. And I'm going to talk about why when we get to the asteroids, because once again, everything that we're discussing is like an interchangeable conversation, okay? Because if you look here at this South Node Cupido, some of what's holding us back is our associations and our family. Some of what we need to let go of might relate to those factors. It's time to move on, perhaps, and look to the outer world, okay? So, but we first have to discover what's inside to be able to move outer. So it is about healing right here. But remember, Neptune's on that angle. So this is where I talk about interchangeable conversations. Could it be the contacts that you're making are not necessarily what they appear to be? And I am going to talk about how some people have been getting together in the last several months, and maybe not always for the best reasons. Maybe because they're lonely. And that is something I really want to point out here, that we are lonely. And again, I'll talk even more about that when we get to the asteroids. But in our loneliness, are we connecting up with maybe some people that are questionable? Do they deserve our friendship? Or are these friendships based on drugs and alcohol? Okay, Neptune! So, I mean, seriously, you know, when we're bored, when we're feeling isolated, when mentally we're not feeling our best, especially loneliness, we're not always really good about who we're connecting up with or who we're bonding with. So this is an interchangeable conversation here, okay? I can't stress that enough. Sometimes people will immerse themselves in things so that they don't have to deal with other things. That is going to become very apparent. You know, especially, that's with drug and alcohol again, but especially people that, you know, don't want to deal with what's really going on right now. They just don't. And they will find connections or escapism ways how not to do that. you know, it's really funny that we have to understand how we're affected by our associations, because there's a reality here that our fates are not alone, that my fate is related to your fate, that all of our fates, and that again is that node sun, that we're in this together, whether we want to be or not, that we are in this together. Okay, that's huge. That's a huge factor. Another factor that seems to come up is an idealism and dependencies, and that's where you look at the Cupido to the Neptune. Also, homes that might have water issues. I didn't see house there or anything else, but if these angles affect you on a personal level, then be careful of water in the home or water issues or homes that are near water, because there could be a problem. Okay. Ironically, again, something I'm experiencing on a personal level. So not that we have water in this home, but we have a home that we're very concerned that could get flooded. A tree just came down. If it stops up the water, we're doomed. So the idea of, and by the way, we don't know when it's getting fixed. So it's so beautifully fits in there. So when I talk about this, it doesn't have to be just water in your basement, but it could be a water issue or a house that's near water, something that is of a concern that maybe needs to be dealt with. You know, the other thing that we have to look at is when we're in a group or a family, how much are we or others being taken advantage of? Are we taking advantage of others? Are others taking advantage of us? And this is something that maybe we want to look at, and that's down here. Okay, again, I believe we're healing. I really do. I think this connection, all of this, is pointing to that being here, especially Pluto as it sits now right in the Aries point, because it's right at 2230, 2233 to be exact. So it's 3 minutes outside the Aries point. So it really is, this transformation that's going on is definitely a huge part of what we're living right now. And to further discuss this, when you get to this Neptune sun, we are changing as people, because that's what's going to happen as a result of this. And some of the things I'm going to talk about with the asteroids. That when this is going on, that we're dealing with scenarios that are very unclear. And I can honestly tell you, I doubt we feel the same in the future. As a matter of fact, that's going to show up. I think that we're changing. So when these things come back around, when things are more normal, our normal won't be like this. It'll be slightly different because we would have changed it, because some things are no longer important and they can be let go. So we're moving on. Healing, however, and I've said this as a trainer, I said this as a dance teacher, I say this all the time. Healing is painful, all levels of healing. But it's really something we're going through, we need to go through, and it will be good for us on the other side. It doesn't make it easier. But one of the things we're recognizing is things that maybe we don't need and we can let go of. Even though we may not do it right away. We may have to go through some disillusion to really figure it out. But it's definitely on the plate, if you will. And like I said, already in the stars, already happening. Now, deep loneliness is going to be a repeatable theme. It shows up on the angles with the asteroids. Repeatable themes point to me as an astrologer, those areas that are really important. And I keep going back to the loneliness concept because I think that sometimes that's why odd bedfellows get together. That's why some people connect the way they do. Because I think loneliness, especially with having been isolated, pandemics, so on and so forth, I think that that's a big factor. But the funny thing about all of this is we're going to be finding out through the asteroids that one of the ways in which we need to deal with everything going on is through solitude. So there's something very spiritual about also being on our own and doing things on our own or being alone, because it does give us time to think and ponder, and it does give us a higher level of consciousness, allowing us to be more spiritual. And the road to getting there is sensitivity, and that can be very overwhelming for any one of us. So we're looking at how also hidden dependencies, and especially in families. I really think the advantage thing and how we are with each other, close associates, is something that all of us could look at. Now I'm going to look at the other side of the chart here. Okay, so we've seen our sensitivities, our vulnerabilities, our call to spirituality, because the awareness that there is something greater than us. But in this chart, I'm going to reiterate those themes by looking at the angles. And the angles are those things that, again, 10 degrees on either side. I'm going to breeze through them because you're going to see here by the ascendant alone, there's a lot of them. Not so many in the descendant, but wow, on the ascendant. Enough on the midheaven, and definitely a decent amount on the IC. These are, again, interchangeable conversations, just like I was doing with the nodes and Neptune and the nodes to Cupido and the sun to Neptune, the moon to Neptune. Those are interchangeable conversations. All of those things are affected because they all fall on the angles. This is going to be true of these asteroids. There's many. So let's get ready. I'm going to do some keywords. I think it's the best way to work. Starting over here, you see beginnings with Clotho that are complicated. Now this, Magdalena, I'm pretty sure it is. When I put this together, because that's again about a face or being attractive, I will put this with the mask. So I really do believe that the first part of our healing, and here's Panacea down here, to begin healing right now and to be more productive, the only way we can do that is with a mask. There has not been an astrology chart that I have read in the last, I don't know, months of doing this work that doesn't talk about the masks and the importance of the masks. They're not making that up. It's really in the chart. And if you ask me, it's a key component. If that's all we have to do, that might be it. So a mask, such a simple thing. But there we have it again. It does talk about production and, again, beginning. So I know that things are opening up. They really are opening up. The transformation, Pluto, not far from Jupiter. Healing, we're opening up. Here we have Sisyphus, though. So some things we're going to have to do over again. Okay, Sisyphus is the rolling of this little man. He's like rolling this ball pill. That's what that represents. And this is our bodies, body awareness. The productivity and being productive and physically able to do things is going to be something we have to try over and over again. Okay, we have to figure out how to do that while this is going on. And it does kind of tell you that in order for some solutions to work, and we're hunting them out with Artemis here. Now it also could relate to animals. So for some people, this Artemis is an animal. But Panacea, so it's a lot of solutions for animals, but it's also hunting or looking for solutions, doing things over again as we do things over again. And it talks about ornamenta. And ornamenta, here we go. It's an accessory. It's a mask, okay? Repeatable themes, very important in astrology. It talks about Letitius. This is important because this was the sun, moon equals Neptune. Remember, repeatable themes. Letitius tells us that though we have these beginnings, and also with Panacea, with, here we go again, Sisyphus, there's going to be interruptions, disruptions, and even changing of directions. A park near us, where I live, has closed. It's changing directions. When things aren't working, in order to kind of keep moving forward, you have to just keep changing. And that is what this is. But there's going to be changing of directions, which I think will bring some excitement, both good and bad. But there's also going to be withdrawal, distancing from work. Those two are still in there, okay? This is goals. But goals and withdrawing are together. And maybe some of the goals would be to do work that is more virtual, or to figure out how to make the virtual stuff be as productive. I think that's going to happen too. But let's look at some things. Those are pretty optimistic. And I believe they are optimistic, okay? So we go into this thing with some optimism, which I think is great. And also think when the sun and moon are together, that's a confidence con, all right? But remember that all of that is opposite Neptune. All of it is fuzzy at best, an illusion at worst, a disillusion as a strong possibility. It refers here, now these are retrograde, so it's more of an introspective type thing. But it talks about how our weakness is Persephone, being alone. But yet, I'm going to be honest with you, the only way to solve some things is solitude. And I'm going to get to some of those things that are going to be needing to be solved. Boom, right up here, okay? The chaos, the self-destructive behavior, out of control, off the rail. People are just overreacting, in part because of wounds. Psyche is wounds, emotional wounds. We all have them. So people are overreacting. Now, intuition is also at an all-time high, okay? Because down here you've got Hecate, here you've got Neptune, and here you've got Psyche. If we could just trust our dreams and our gut, and by the way, everybody's having dreams right now, and I suspect most of them are weird. Listen to them. No matter how weird they are, there's stuff coming there that you need to know, okay? So listen to the messages, because right now there's so much you don't know that it's going to make it hard to make decisions. Decisions are tough right now because we just don't know. We don't know about the disease. We don't know about people who lie and who are unreliable. We just don't know. And are they lying? Are they truthful? Are we lying to ourselves? Okay? So this was the nastiest, I thought, lineup. But remember, this plays in with everything. Okay? And why? Because our weakness, repeatable theme, our Achilles heel is going it alone. Okay? And I know that's true. I've met that through my work. I am very fortunate. This pandemic doesn't really upset me that way. I love social distancing. I've done it long before it was anything. But I am a 12th house sun. Remember, this is a 12th house sun moon. We might get more out of being on our own. And I'll tell you again, when people get excitable and they become overreactive and self-destructive, really, is it a weakness to walk away on our own? Something to think about, isn't it? Achilles heel. Are we saddling up with people who are not solid? I don't know how else to put it. Watch it. Who you're affiliating with is really important right now for our mental state. Mental and emotional. And with a polarized political situation we're all in, it's really not good. You have to be highly evolved, and so does everybody else you're around, to be around people that think very differently than you do right now. Ideology is definitely guiding people. I know that within the groups, small groups of people that I associate with, that's very true, that no one feels comfortable dealing with people who have different ideologies right now. Because they're off the rails. People are off the rails. It's causing so much confusion. And again, it affects our connections. It affects who we affiliate with. And no, we don't want to be on our own, but maybe it's the best way to deal with these energies. So let me finish up down here. Memories of justice. Are we just waking up? I always used to say that I thought America was terrible because we seem to have such a short memory. But when I look at this astrology, I'm beginning to wonder if America's not getting better with regards to memory, okay? And that's just one area, but in a reality, a totality, on a personal level, memories are important. It's not about forgiving. You can still forgive, but forgetting means that the opportunity to get in that place again is very strong. And so memory is playing a part here. Justice, just rewards, that's very karmatic. So that doesn't necessarily mean it's good. Some of it will be, but some of it won't be. So we might be seeing some heavy justice right now. But as I said, listen to your gut when it comes to decisions. There's Lilith. We're going to be making some decisions here. Really listen to your gut, because Calypso here tells us we don't have all the information. We're reminded by Neptune we don't have all the information. We're also reminded up here by the chaos. There's just so much chaos. There is a saying when you read cards that you can't see the forest for the trees. Maybe we're all sitting in that to some respect, and that our overwhelming sensitivity right now is causing triggers to memories and scars that we all have that could be self-destructive if we overreact, and that there is justice with Tiffany. So with that said, let's flip back here. So I just want to say thanks, guys, for listening, but I also want to say, with pretty heavy chart, but I do want to say we are healing. I do really want to say that. We are healing, but healing doesn't come without pain. And we are waking up. I think I've waited my whole life for this. Wake up! There is more than just us out there. There's a lot more. We're just a small piece of dust in a greater universe. So if you have any questions, contact me through divinationcounselingservice.org. And as I said earlier, please like, share, comment. I'd love to hear from you. I love the feedback and the interaction. And if, like I say, questions or private work, check the website out, divinationcounselingservice.org. I'm here for you. And until we meet again, happy readings, as always.